Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. I'm, of course, your host tonight, Mega Mike, the movie mutant, to go along with the X-Men franchise theme. So we got an amazing X-Men ranking stream. We're going to go through every single X-Men movie, including the Deadpool movies. We'll discuss a little bit about all of them, chronological order, of course, and then we'll get into our individual rankings, and then we'll have the amazing group ranking reveal. And wow, I was pretty shocked where some of these ended up after looking at everybody's score. So this is going to be very fun. Let's bring out this amazing, let's call them the X-Force tonight, right? We got a Gammon right there. You ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready to bring
Yeah.
this. Yes. X-Force.
Pure Hank McCoy. Yes, X-Force. There we go. We got a Dimension Scott. You ready? All right. There we go. All right, and then Zack Attack Mutants, X-Force. There we go. I like that. Okay. So let's get this going right away after we look quickly through the comments, because I think we got some surprises in here. We got Tiana Loves Movies saying, "Oh, this is an awesome ranking video." Thank you so much, Tiana. And thank
Hello.
you even more for the $13.99 super chat. Thank you so much, Tiana. Very much appreciated. I wish I had like an X-Men clip to play for you, but because I'm a little under the weather, didn't get one in time. But here we go. This is Disney. There you go. That was Disney related. So that's what we had there to work with. All right. Ben Buster, of course, is everywhere. Let's go. What do you think will be number one? Yes, let us know in the comments, people. What do you think is going to be the number one scored X-Men movie? All right, Collector Movie Man. Hey, Zach and Mike. Hello, Collector Movie Man. And then we got Nate the Great out there. Hey, everybody. Love the X films. Looking forward to all the picks. Well, hopefully we do them justice by you, Nate. So let's get right into... Oh, and Craig's here, of course. Let's take a look now at our first movie. After I remind you, if you love X-Men films, go ahead and Wolverine, slash that like and subscribe. Use super chats to break the fourth wall with your comment, because it'll be read live and displayed for everybody to see. And if you have ideas for future streams, you want some other perks, definitely check out those memberships. They're very super, I have to say. And then, of course, let's jump into that first movie, X-Men 2000. All right. Oh, and your Hangout already has it right there, ready to go. I
There
like
we go.
Very classic. All right. Well, and Dimension
nice.
too. Okay.
One of those sleeve style, or the
Ooh.
look at that, very like a mirror.
Wow. So
I like
strange.
that.
All right. Well, because Derek, you're busting out the fancy stuff. I'll let you start here. What do you think of the first X-Men movie? Because I know you're a massive X-Men fan.
Yeah, that movie was a dream come true. Growing up watching the animated series, my stepdad actually introduced me to the X-Men, and yeah, watching the animated series, the dream was to see this live action someday. And Wizard magazine, you would see this fan casting all the time. It's like, oh, that's a great idea. Oh, that's a bad idea. Oh, that's a good idea. And one thing that I think everybody on Earth agreed was that Patrick Stewart should play Professor Xavier. And then to see that actually come into fruition, to see that happen was just amazing. Then we have this no name through Hugh Jackman. None of us knew who he was. And it's like, I don't know about this. Wolverine is bulkier, he's shorter, but he killed it. And, we didn't get everything that we know with Rogue in this movie, but she was used in a really cool way. So I think a lot of people, it's like, well, it's okay. This isn't the comics. This is not the cartoons. This is the movies. So, it can be different. So the differences, I think, were fine and welcome even. And I think we were all just excited to see X-Men on screen. And I know I was. It was amazing. It was so good. It was so good. It wasn't necessarily what I asked for, but what I was given was amazing, and I fell in love with it and the franchise that followed.
All right. And Dimension, how did you feel on this one?
I think it's an underrated comic book movie because it started the comic book industry in the 2000s. Now I remember watching it on DVD for the first time. Loved it at my dad's place. I got it on DVD for myself. Watched it over and over and over.
Yeah, it's so rewatchable, right? Like that's one
It
I can
is.
just play
Mhm.
all the time.
Yeah.
Ben Buster, how'd you feel about this one?
I'm kind of up there with Derek in all this. It was awesome. Like Wizard Magazine. I remember even seeing this stuff for like X Factor shortly after this movie came out. Like, who would play Mondo? And it's
Uh-huh.
Sean Weiss from Mighty Ducks every time. So it was like, okay. So it was just how that brought into the forefront more so these group of characters that anyone could relate to. Finally seeing them on a big screen, and you're like, wow. I kind of miss the comic book accurate costumes, but it's neither here nor there. I understand what they were going with,
Right.
but it just felt weird not seeing the X-Men in a lot of yellow. So
Need more yellow.
yeah, needed more yellow. It just
It was great they made a joke about it though. It let us know, okay, they get it too. You know, they understand.
they do, and I loved that aspect. The writing was phenomenal in this movie. You could tell that you could tell that the writers actually knew these characters, and so
All right, Zach.
Yeah, I fortunately didn't get to watch this in the movie theaters. I think I was 10 when it came out, so I got to see it on DVD later on, and I watched it every time it came on TV. And I was a big X-Men fan. I grew up on the animated series. I read the comic books, so to see this version come out right after like Blade, because Blade is really like the first one, but then X-Men took the baton and took it to another level. And I love all these characters, and I think that it was a great stepping off point for them to introduce it to the wider audience that weren't comic book geeks. And the best thing about this film, because obviously I watched some of these over for this list, is that it holds up really, really well. A lot of classic old films, especially comic book ones, do not hold up. And I feel like this you can match with any comic book movie right now, and it still holds up for the most part. There's some corny dialogue and some things that are very 2000s about the movie, but for the most part, I think the VFX, I think the acting, I think the storyline, everything holds up really, really well. And I love everybody that was casted in each role.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I first saw this one, because I think I did actually get to see it in theaters with my family when I was very young, I thought I was in the wrong movie. I'm like, what is this? We're watching some war movie, right, with Magneto at the beginning. I'm like, is this the right movie? At first, I'm like, what's going on here? I don't get what's happening. But then you realize it's Magneto, and talk about great casting. You guys were saying with Professor X, but Magneto so good in here, and just that contrast dynamic between those two, where it's Magneto's all for the mutants. He loves his mutants. He's like, they're the next step in evolution. Get rid of the humans. But then Xavier's like, well, we can all work together. We can all get along. You have that really good dynamic back and forth. And I thought some of the characters were great in here, like Toad. I'm a big Toad fan. He was awesome. Thought he had a great little action sequence towards the end. There's just something about this one. I love seeing all the different characters. I thought the powers were really cool. It's an easy to follow story. I did like the stuff with Rogue where they kind of switch it on you. You think they're after Wolverine, and they're like, "What? I don't need you, Wolverine. Why would I need you?" And you find out they're going with Rogue. So that was a little good twist there. So it was a very thrilling superhero movie. I thought the costumes were fine. We were trying to make it more mainstream, get more people introduced to the X-Men, so those worked well enough. You still got the Jet in there. That was super cool. I didn't super love what they did with Cyclops, and then, he was kind of, at Wolverine's throat and all that. I thought they could have done probably better with Cyclops, but other than that, they did great with all the other characters. So
he wasn't as much as a douche as he normally is.
That's probably the one damning thing for this whole series, the treatment of Cyclops.
Yeah.
All right.
Through.
Well, next up, 3 years later, they took their time on this one. We had X2. And you know what? I'll start here with X2 because I freaking love X2. Oh my gosh. X2 The opening scene. I love these opening scenes in these X-Men movies so far. Like, oh my gosh, X2 with Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler's my favorite X-Men character. So to see all the teleporting effects, I'm like, wow, this is like the coolest thing I've ever seen on screen. Um, but yeah, I mean, the characters were great again. Yeah, I'll let you guys talk. I don't want to talk the whole time. Zach, I'll let you go now. How'd you feel about X2?
Yeah, so I got to see this one in theaters. It was 2013, I guess. So I was able to go and see it with my family. And I loved it. I think it's a step up from the first one. And even as much as I love the first one, I think they got all the wrinkles. They got the origin story
Yeah.
stuff out of the way. Now we can just delve into the story right away. We don't have to do all the backstory stuff. We know who these characters are. It's so funny this movie is called X2 United, even though like they were separated for like 90% of the movie. But like you said, that Nightcrawler scene was amazing. Like Nightcrawler's cool in the comics, but you can't see how cool his powers is on the page, right? Like it's so much better animated or live action, and the things that you can do with it is so much. He's more of a live action character, and I really, really like he's like this weird, like devil looking character. He's so sweet, and I kind of like what they did there in terms of like the people who look different, even with him, but are really sweet and nice. So I think the action was a step up. The character dynamics is a step up. I think it has a lot of the same elements as the first one, but they just brought it to the next level. But that opening scene was amazing.
Oh, so good. All right, Ben, what do you think of this one?
I think the casting of Nightcrawler in this movie was amazing.
Yeah.
I think it was amazing. I don't think you could have gotten anyone better in that role. I mean, he just you felt his pain, you felt his anguish, you felt the moments he was happy. Like that's a good actor. And like Zach said, the special effects of him teleporting. I mean, it's one thing to see it on a cartoon because you're like, oh, you could draw it easily, but seeing it actually here in the movie, it's like, whoa, they actually did it. Okay. I was a little skeptical about how they're going to introduce him and how going in, I was a little skeptical about how they were going to introduce him and his powers. It worked. It worked overall. So,
All right, Dimension.
Yes, I agree. I went to the theater with my cousins and their families. We all saw it in theaters together. It was absolutely mind-blowing, insane, thanks to Nightcrawler. For those of you who don't know, that according to the actor, that he had a lot of bad experience with wearing the makeup. So that's why he didn't reprise his role again until they decided to use the character for the first class timeline, portrayed by somebody else. Yeah, but they did a great job shooting that Nightcrawler sequence, and this is what I like about comic book movie sequels, to kick it up a notch and make the film even more successful, just like their predecessors. And incredible action, especially in the mansion sequence when William Stryker and his military invades the X Mansion. Wolverine's such a badass. Wolverine killing all the soldiers, and he meets his, well, should I say, creator, William Stryker, who gave him the adamantium claws, and discovering more about his past. And I think for the most part, there's so much great storytelling, and for the most part, every character gets to shine in the movie.
Yeah, and you get so many characters here. Iceman was really cool in this. Pyro. You even get to see what's the guy? The metal guy. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, he was so. I wanted to see more of him in this movie. Like, oh, that power looks so cool. Derek, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I really like that. That we got to see more X-Men here, even if it wasn't small little bits. And I did love that with Colossus when he's like, "I can help you." And, it's like, oh, wow, Colossus, we're going to see him, do more. But it kind of turned into like a War Machine moment, like when he's like, next time when in, what is that, Iron Man 1? And then, you're thinking, oh, we're going to get, way more Colossus later in future movies. That never really panned out until, Deadpool later. But I think everybody, mentioned Nightcrawler, and his opening scene really does like steal the whole movie. Like it's so good. And Brian Cox, brings in a great element as Stryker. So yeah, another wonderful X-Men movie.
All right, and then next up we got X-Men: The Last Stand. Another 3 years after that, so they did take their time with this one. I know some people aren't the biggest fan here of this movie, but I mean, see, Derek has it right there. Doesn't that cover look so cool?
Yeah.
I actually like this one. I think more than most out there.
Mhm.
I think there's some cool character development with like what they do with Pyro. I also like seeing Beast in this one finally. And then yeah, Magneto just has some great scenes where he's assembling all the mutants and
Yeah.
they're getting ready to throw down and they move that San Francisco bridge. And I love that battle scene at the end. You got the Juggernaut. Oh my gosh, I thought it was great. You even get to see like characters like Multiple Man and all of
Mm.
that. So I mean, it really goes
Yeah.
deep into some of these characters. Angels in there as well. And I thought it
So
was an
cool.
interesting premise of okay, you got this mutant that can cure people, and so they're using him as a weapon now. And I just love the dialogue with Magneto saying, "Oh yeah, they never talk about forcing it on people. They just do it, right?" When he shows up at that church and is talking to all his mutant brothers. Yeah, he's so good. Magneto's just amazing in
Yeah.
this whole trilogy. But yeah, I actually like a lot of the moments in here. What do you think, Ben Buster?
My favorite scene in this entire movie is Wolverine and Jean.
Mm,
Well, when she's the Phoenix and he's coming at her and he's
Mm.
just deteriorating and then
Healing.
re-healing himself. I think that's by far, like, I can actually see that off of a comic book page in
Mhm.
real life. So
I
it's
was
like,
I was totally thinking something different right there. My mind was going a little dirty with Mystique turning into
Yes,
her
yes,
and the
yeah.
tut right there.
that scene, like, to me, that's one of the best things in this entire movie. And like seeing Beast, it's like, where's he been this entire time? And then all of a sudden he shows up in here. It's like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then you also see those hints of those characters' eyes when they realize, hey, look at what they can do if they put us in the wrong hands. So you kind of see some realize what Charles is saying is true. Some realize that what Magneto's saying is true. At the same time, you're like, huh, okay. I just love how this flushes out everything as well too.
Dimension, what were you gonna say?
well, Ben Buster, you were saying about where was Beast? He actually had a cameo in X2 Unite on that TV.
Oh,
yeah. In his
Yeah.
human form, or not human form, but yeah, before he became blue fur.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And in the first X-Men movie, the truck driver that drives Rogue to Laughlin City, um, that's the voice actor who did Beast in the animated series,
Oh,
Yes,
George
it
Buza.
that's dope.
Nice.
So how do you like this one overall, Derek? I mean, you finally got Beast in there, your favorite.
Yeah. So when I came out of the theater, I left with a high because my favorite character is Beast. This is him from that film X3. Kelsey Grammer playing him. Kelsey Grammer was perfect in terms of the way he like carries himself, like how he feels like a very distinguished person. His like what is that called? The mid Atlantic accent that he has, or whatever, is perfect. And actually, um, uh, Beast is from Illinois. I'm from Illinois, so I love him for that also. So is Kitty Pryde also.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was just a dream come true to see him again. It wasn't like exactly like what I was looking for, but we weren't there yet. He didn't have the enormous hands, the enormous feet, and he, wasn't like walking around all like eventually like he is now, actually, that we learn in Marvels. He's CG, that's a little more accurate, but I love what they did with what they could use at the time. So yeah, I love a lot of moments in this. I think this movie has some of the best moments. As a film as a whole, I don't love it all, but it does have some of the best moments. That one that you talked about, Ben, is great. I also like the one with Wolverine and Professor Xavier. Basically, that sacrifice moment with Xavier. Just like, I mean, sometimes when I watch it, my eyes water. So I do love a lot of the moments in this one, even if I don't necessarily love all of the movie.
Zach, what do you think of this one?
I think this movie has the same issues as like Amazing Spider-Man 3 and then Spider-Man 3. It's Amazing Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man 2. I'm trying to wish in Amazing Spider-Man 3 into existence. Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3 in terms of like it has some really good parts, some great parts, but it's stuffed with so much that the whole movie is not as good as you want it to be. But I think it gets way too much hate. It's a step down from X1 and X2, but it still has so much of the essence that you want from X-Men movies. Juggernaut is goofy, and I really love his scene in this movie. I already talked about that. I thought he was hilarious, and I thought his action sequence was great. Like you said, Charles Xavier sacrifice, and yeah, like even though I felt like Wolverine versus Phoenix was a little dissatisfying because I felt like Wolverine shouldn't be the one to be able to kill her. It's the Phoenix. The whole aspect of like him getting ripped apart and put back together is very like ripped off the page.
Yeah.
So I grew with like appreciation of this movie as I got older because of how fun the aspects are, even though the whole movie is not great as a whole. So
Yeah,
I still
totally
really
agree.
enjoyed the hell out of this movie.
All right. Well, who enjoys the heck out of this one? X-Men Origins Wolverine. I feel like Zach, you're ready to rant on this one just a little bit.
I watched this for the first time 2 days ago.
Oh wow!
Oh, wow.
I skipped all the Wolverine movies other than Logan when they originally came out. I just wasn't interested in Wolverine by himself at the time. Yeah, it's so funny. This is a movie of two halves. Like the first half of the film, I was he got it. I was locked in. I was like, okay, like everybody's been talking so much shit about this movie. Is this gonna be another one where people talk shit about it and I like it? Like I'm infamous for liking movies that people think are bad. And the opening sequence is amazing. Once again, another great X-Men opening sequence.
Yeah.
I was upset about Sabretooth and Wolverine being brothers because I hate that thing where they have to make everybody related to like streamline stuff. That's really annoying and lazy to me. But I thought it really, really worked because of chemistry between Hugh Jackman and Lee Schreiber. And I thought Lee Schreiber was a great Sabretooth. He had the intensity, but he also had the intelligence. I like that they depicted Sabretooth with some intelligence because a lot of times he can be like just a mindless beast.
More human.
Yeah, he was more human. They didn't give him the full fur, but I could see him getting to that point. Like he was going to evolve into that, still have his intelligence. Look. Yeah, and there's a lot of great parts to this. The relationship with his girlfriend, I was like, hold on, something's up here. How are you in a relationship with this man? He could have stabbed you in your stomach if you were sleeping there. There's like little stuff like that I really enjoyed. The other mutants and stuff like that. It's after he gets his antimanium bones stuff, that's where it just starts unraveling. And then the third act, it just falls apart completely. Like more and more and more. And it's just like, here's Cyclops. And before, I was like, whoa, hold up. Why is he in this movie? We didn't need him. This is a Wolverine origin movie. And then here's Gambit. I was like, oh, Gambit. And then Gambit started climbing the wall. And I was like, whoa.
Spider Gambit, huh?
Yeah. And it's more, the emotional stuff worked really well in this film. The comic book stuff did not. I think that's the main part of it.
And then, sorry to butt in, but like with some of the other mutants, like Blob, does he even have a power? Or because it was almost just like he was a human that then just kind of went
in the movie it like didn't seem like he did have one. In the movie, it didn't seem like he did.
Yeah,
he's an immovable object.
Yeah, and I feel like he has a really cool power, and they just was like, oh no, he just started eating a lot, and it's like, no, he's cool. His power is awesome.
It got goofy. I think like it was this whoever was doing this was it taking it as serious as the first three X-Men.
Yeah, and then obviously with Deadpool,
I think they tried to, hey, we weren't able to give you some of the characters we could in the X-Men films, so here's these guys now.
Yeah.
It kind of thing. It'd be like, hey, it's a Wolverine origin story. How much more can we tell other than the Weapon X saga, how old he is, Canada, stuff like that.
Taylor Kitsch was miscast.
He was, and like I agree, it's not a good movie.
You're right about that opening scene, like going through the years, the wars that they've experienced together. That's really the only reason. Like once that's over, you can turn off the movie. Actually, it's cool when he does walk away from that explosion. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, like I said, right, like after that explosion,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
rolls downhill completely. I was like, oh my god, what is happening? I was watching with my friend, and I was like, what is going on? He said, I told you. It tricked me too. He was like, oh man, this movie's better than I expected it to be. And then Agent Zero like jumped into a moving helicopter, and I was like, oh no. This movie's about to jump the shark. He has no superpowers. How did he jump into a moving helicopter?
Ugh.
Dimension, how'd you feel about this one?
Well, not really good. It's meh with studio meddling, a writer strike, so much crammed into the movie. Hugh Jackman still fine as Wolverine. The guy played Victor Creed. He did a fine job. The action sequences, they're pretty good. They're pretty okay. Even the fight sequence between Wolverine and that butchered up Deadpool.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that kind of ruined it for me. That ending, but rewatching it, I did like most of it. I would say I probably like 3/4 of the movie. I just like seeing the different characters. Was Gambit's another one of my favorites, even though I wanted more of him. And like the Blob was cool to see, even though I wanted more of him. And then you got to see like Ryan Reynolds doing that Deadpool kind of quirky dialogue at the beginning. You're like, oh, I can see that humor right there.
Yeah.
I could see him being a great Deadpool. And eventually we do get that, but not in this movie. In the end,
Right.
it's just, I don't know what that was.
It seemed like they wanted to have a different villain, but they weren't sure how to get there. So they're like, hey, we got Ryan Reynolds. Let's make him all
Yeah.
these different
we're paying the guy.
villains. Yeah.
Yeah, that
We
was,
already have someone here. Let's just make him all these villains we want.
yeah, it just went off the rails. All right. Well, next up, a movie that gets kind of back on track here. We do have X-Men First Class. Oh, Zach already clapping for this one.
I love this fucking movie.
All right, Zach, I got to hear it.
Yeah, I look. We talked. I love X1, love X2. I like X3, and then we have all that garbage in between. But I love this version of the X-Men. Like I think it's also a part of it. It's the fact that I was old enough to go to the theater by myself, and it's the first time I'm watching it. And I just love the maturity here. I love, Charles Xavier, Patrick Stewart, and Ian McKellen are phenomenal. Perfect casting.
Yeah.
But Michael Fassbender and what's the other guy name?
James McAvoy.
Thank you. From Wanted. How could I forget about them? They're phenomenal, and they get to bring so much depth to these characters that those two don't, because they're fully realized. And we're watching them grow, and we don't get that really in the comics or in the cartoons.
No.
Both Magneto and Professor X are already full-fledged characters, and we're following everybody else growing. So I thought that was really interesting to see. I think that, I don't know if this is a hot take though. My one negative is I think Jennifer Lawrence cast as Mystique is the worst comic book movie casting of all time.
Worse than Halle Berry as Catwoman?
Yes.
Okay.
Halle Berry's sexy as Catwoman, at least.
I'm not arguing it with you there. I just, yeah.
That movie's are garbage.
Yeah.
But Halle Berry is fine.
Yes. Yeah.
But
she
she
is.
just doesn't fit the character at all. Like she's in the Hunger Games, and they made her the hero here, and Mystique is supposed to be the villain, at most an anti-hero. So I feel like she's like the one part of these next couple movies that's kind of And then they did the whole thing where like, oh yeah, she's like related to Charles. I was like, come on, stop it. But overall, I really like seeing them gather up the mutants. I love the action. I love that they try to bring some yellow. Like, we talked about the yellow, try to bring it in there. She said it. Kevin Bacon is a phenomenal villain. Speaking of that, they do have a sin here with killing what's his name? The guy that shouldn't be able to be killed.
Darwin.
Yeah, that was bullshit. So yeah, but overall, I love seeing the Hellfire Club. That was one of my favorite things from the comics and also the animated series. That was really, really cool. I just overall just love the movie from beginning to end.
All right, and Derek, I know you're also a big fan of this one.
Yeah, I really like this one. And I think one of the good things for me was I've never really been that into the Hellfire Club and like Emma
Mhm.
Frost and things like that. Like that was never one of my favorite storylines that I knew from the X-Men. But using Kevin Bacon and January Jones,
Mhm.
that I don't know, I really liked it. Oh, I also liked gosh, what's her name? Who played Moira McTaggart? I can't remember the actress's name, but I thought she was great as well. So we were bringing in these new characters with great actors who played them well in my eyes. I think a lot of people have issue with the way January Jones, maybe not the way she played Emma Frost, but the way the movie wrote Emma Frost, I guess. But I don't know.
Mm.
I really liked all of that.
Rose Byrne, who's who you were talking
Rose
about.
Byrne, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I like her a lot.
Yes.
So yeah, I thought this was great. I like that it used real world events that we know about and
Mhm.
included them in this story with the missile crisis.
Mhm.
And yeah, I thought all of that was interesting. And then also it taking place in the 60s. That's kind of when they started this whole dated portion of the franchise where it's like, okay, we are gonna make this the 60s and really let you know it's the 60s.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a lot of fun. And this is one of the instances where they did it the best. And yeah, I do really like this one. Like you said, the casting's great for the most part. I agree with Jennifer Lawrence. I think she was lucky that Hunger Games was going on around the same time, even though this came out first. But like if we judged her solely on this, I think we would all think she's a bad actress. But yeah, I think she's just miscast, for this.
Yeah.
All right, Ben, how'd you feel about?
I kind of agree. I agree with what Derek is saying. I love the whole aspect of here's history. We're going to throw these X-Men into history that you already know.
Right.
And I just love that because it's like you're talking at a time where even mutants, even the mutants right now would be hated upon by the normal humanity too as well. And here they are trying to save the world.
Right.
So it's like you have a group that is being shunned, but at the same time trying to save them. I'm not a huge Hellfire Club fan, but I love Kevin Bacon and Sebastian Shaw.
Yeah.
I
And-
think that's phenomenal. Well,
Yeah.
like not just him, but the way they incorporated Shaw's powers, the way he just absorbs the powers, absorbs the energy, and just gets stronger. I love that, especially the scene where he has Magneto's helmet on. Oh,
Yeah.
that's
And his relationship with Magneto, all of
Yes.
that. Like my favorite line in it is when Magneto walks up to him and he's like, "I agree with everything that you say,
Yeah.
but," and then,
exactly.
goes on.
All right, in Dimension.
Kind of boring.
What?
I'm not a huge fan of 1960 prequel movies.
Oh,
James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, they're good. I think it's kind of fun when they start forming the groups together, especially when that Wolverine cameo. You remember what he said?
Oh,
Go
yeah,
F
that was
yourselves.
great.
Go F
love
yourselves.
yourself. Yeah.
That was funny. I understand you guys don't really like Jennifer Lawrence. She did get better, however, in Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
But Jennifer Lawrence is no Rebecca Romijn Mystique.
That's for sure.
I'll tell you that.
Right.
Yeah, and the biggest problem was it was Jennifer Lawrence most of the time. She wasn't
Yeah.
even in the Mystique form.
Yeah.
Because Jennifer Lawrence wants to be shown as Jennifer Lawrence, right? And
Yes.
that was a big pet peeve of mine with that.
And
But
some of that,
other
the makeup just takes so long, so they write it in. Okay, she's not in makeup all. She's not in
Yeah.
blue form all the time. And
Save money.
yeah, and I don't.
save money by just having her in the X-Men suit too.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it just, I don't know. It is obvious when you're watching it. It's like, oh, okay, they're trying to cut corners here.
In
Rebecca
the chat,
Romijn, she was okay with it.
in the chat, Nicholas Holt as Beast. I think they
Yeah.
did a phenomenal job at recasting this character as well too. I think Nicholas Holt just brings something to that character that's you see his humanity, you see his progression throughout the series
Mm-hmm.
and
I
becoming
love
Beast.
how he
I
was,
just love that.
how he was classic Beast at first with just the bigger feet.
Yes.
And then he transforms into the later version of
Yes.
Beast we see in the
Right.
comic. I thought
He has
that
like
was really,
a
yeah.
sorry. He has like a Clark Kent Ernest to him.
Mhm.
That's I felt like, and I see why he went for Superman at
Mm-hmm.
first. Because he just like you feel like, oh, he just wants to do good. And then you fall in love with the character. He doesn't have to do much.
I don't
Yeah.
like this version of Beast though. Like when he looks like a cat, that's not my
Yeah.
favorite version
Mm.
of him.
Yeah, the X-Men 3 one does look probably the best of Beast.
Mhm.
But yeah, I like the movie overall. You guys already mentioned so many good points. I like it being a period piece. It gives it a different feel. I love the production, the set design here. The costumes were great. And all the characters were interesting in some way. And they had their unique personalities. I love the different power sets. And them like learning and kind of training, and they go through those montages, and that's really cool. Like
Banshee, yeah.
Havoc, yeah, Banshee. Yeah,
Mhm.
that was really cool. Oh, you get to see Nightcrawler's dad in there, right? On the
Azazel.
villain side. That
Yeah.
was super cool. So it had a lot of good callbacks to the other X-Men movies, but it still could stand on its own as a movie. So it was just the best of both worlds.
And the third act is so strong. Like
Oh, yeah.
the coin through the head,
Oh,
the missiles, then paralyzing Charles. Like so much happened
Yeah.
that made sense. Also tying back to like the old movies, because like he's walking around, when does he get paralyzed? And for it to be like part of like an emotional climax moment,
Mhm.
perfect.
yeah, done really well.
All right. Well, something I cannot say was done so well is going to be the Wolverine 2013. Oh my gosh. So, rewatching this movie, I could not get through it.
Wow.
I tapped out on it. It just didn't feel like an X-Men movie to me. That was my biggest problem. It felt way different than any of the other X-Men movies. I don't know, there wasn't enough X-Men stuff in it for me, but I'll let you guys talk about it. Derek, you liked it a little bit more, I'm guessing?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I liked about it. It felt nice and small and contained. So often with these superhero movies, not necessarily all of the X-Men movies, but some of them, it's just like the world is going to end. And this is a nice, small, contained movie. And I like, again, the period piece quality of it with World War II and the like with the bomb and everything that goes on in that scene is really cool with Logan saving that man's life. I really liked all of that. The train sequence is great. I understand the ending. A lot of people having issues with the ending and how it sort of feels like, wait, we had this type of movie, and then at the end here it turns cartoony, with Silver Samurai. So it can be very jarring, and I guess I get that too, and I guess that's why if I were to rank these, it might drop it down a little bit, but otherwise I really do like this movie, and a lot of it is because it's so different. So yeah.
All right, Ben, how you feeling on this one?
I don't really care for it. It was at one of those points that was like you just had First Class. You just got done with a trilogy of stuff, and after X-Men Origins Wolverine, I'm going, oh, okay. But I agree with some of the stuff Derek said about the Japan stuff with his girl and everything and her father and all that history, like the history that they only mention a few times in the cartoons, and unless you're a comic book fan, you don't really know that stuff. I kind of like that they brought that out, but I've also thought that this was more of an origin story than X-Men Origins was. In my opinion, because it's Logan, it's Wolverine trying to find himself, who he truly is,
and had a stronger sense of realism, I think, than a lot of the others also, which if I can see that translating to boring for a lot of people too.
It wasn't necessarily the doing it that way is boring. I just wasn't as invested in it as I was in the previous chapters of the X-Men franchise.
All right, Zach, how'd you feel about this one? Did you watch? You watched it later, then, right?
I watched it right after the day after I watched Origins.
Oh gosh,
it was a whiplash. I was like, this is so much better.
Right.
I felt like Origins was trying to connect things, was trying to expand things, have all these characters and Gambit and random Professor X that looks uncanny and all this other stuff that's goofy. And like Hank McCoy out said, I like that it was contained. I like my solo movies to be pretty contained, a story about that character, his character growth, his past or his future, his present, and like him going through an arc. And I think they did that really well with Wolverine. Wolverine has a lot of story to tell. It's just hard because everyone wants to see him in the team. And I like that they tapped into some of his past. He's been alive for 200 years. There's a lot of story for him to go through in different eras. And I like, the samurai aspect to it because he is a ninja and that's not played on enough. So I really, really liked his relationships. They brought a lot of famous like Asian actors in here, like Sonata and all that, and a bunch of other ones here that did a really, really good job. The action was better in this one. Seeing Silver Samurai brought to life, I know it was goofy, but I thought it was cool because I'm a fan of that character as well. The ending was not as strong as it could have been, but overall, I had a good time with this over Origins. I don't think it's a great movie, but I think it's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Dimension, what do you think of this one?
I give it an okay. After the events of The Last Stand, Wolverine is depressed. Yet he is haunted by nightmares because of killing Jean Grey. He meets this badass redhead ninja girl. They go to Japan. That's a cool idea. It is a definitely better solo Wolverine film than what Origins is. It had good action, good Wolverine action. I'm glad they had practical claws again because the claws were so CGI'd in Origins Wolverine. That train sequences is awesome. And Wolverine has some pretty good chemistry with the girl he's protecting. It kind of saddens me that they never really addressed the events of this movie following either Days of Future Past or anything else. It's like isn't it even canon?
I don't think any of the stuff in the X-Men franchise
although at the end of the movie, it is kind of canon. Because at the end of the movie where Wolverine finds Charles Xavier alive and Magneto with his powers again, it sets up Days of Future Past.
All right. Well, on that note, time to talk about Days of Future Past then. I think you guys were more a fan of this one than me. So, Zach, how'd you feel about Days of Future Past?
Oh, this is my favorite X-Men film and one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. I love it. Love the comic books. I love the story. I haven't seen the road cut. I need to watch that. Just watch on theatrical. Yeah, I gotta watch the road cut. Based on the theatrical cut, I wish Rogue was the main character like in the comics, but I understand that Hugh Jackman's star power at this point is undeniable. So I get why they picked him. And I just love this. I think this is the best story that they've done in terms of writing. It has future, present day, and then they do the period piece. Like it encompasses all good things we just talked about from the X-Men franchise overall. All the dynamics are great. All the different X-Men are great. And that political climate that they had when they went back in the past was really, really cool. And to see Wolverine like go back and then like have the bones was really funny. From that to that. The opening is great. Having Bishop and everything like that. I thought that was really cool. And everything with Iceman and another great opening again. And I think it ended really, really strong overall. And I just love seeing the two characters, like the two Xavier. I remember they put that in the trailer and I was like, why? But like seeing the Xaviers like talk to each other, I thought it like blew my mind at the time, right? Like you never seen nothing like that before. Now it's gonna be tons of that happening now in the MCU. But at the time, that was irregular. So I love this movie.
All right, and Ben,
it was kind of like the mind-blowing thing, like Zach was saying, with the Xaviers. I'm sitting there, I'm watching, I'm going, they're actually doing it. Well, like I refused to, when I heard that part was in the trailer, I refused to watch that trailer. My friends are like, oh, there's something you need to see in this trailer for this X-Men movie. I'm like, nope. I'm going, if it's Days of Future Past, I might know what it is. But then when I went into the theaters, I'm like, just seeing McAvoy and Stewart together, you're just like, you can see the progression from where McAvoy's character was in First Class to where he will be as Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
You kind of see it in that scene. It kind of brings it all full circle. I gotta say, I know I bashed on her too in the First Class. Jennifer Lawrence was a little better in here.
Yeah.
She was better. I think it had to do more with the whole overall setting of stuff and the focus not being solely on her, but being more on Wolverine tying the two different trilogies together. So
All right, Derek, what did you think of this?
I really love this one. The Rogue cut, however, I will say it's cool to see Rogue, but it does overextend the movie. So I would still say the theatrical's better. But my favorite thing about this, and actually one of my favorite scenes of all time, is in this, and that is the kitchen scene with Quicksilver. And that, I mean, when I think of like my top 5 favorite things I've ever seen in a movie, that's one of them. I love that moment so much. I feel like with Bryan Singer coming back to this, I feel like he put in a lot of effort to make this feel like a good, substantial cinematic movie. And by this time, we had the MCU going on.
Yeah.
So, it's there's competition now, right? And it felt like, okay, Fox is really trying here. And I loved that about this one. It felt big. It felt epic. We have that the 70s this time is our time period, this being a period piece, and all of that was great. And seeing Wolverine in 70s gear was just so cool. Yeah, I do really love this one. And yeah, Jennifer Lawrence does up her performance here. One thing I don't like about it, though, would be Beast sort of turning him into a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde sort of character. I don't like that. The thing about Beast that I love is that he's stuck this way, and he accepts himself, and it doesn't, create, situations to where, I can, switch it on and off sort of thing. So
Like the Hulk.
yeah, he's like the Hulk basically, and I don't like that for Beast. Keep that for Hulk, keep that for Jekyll and Hyde or whatever. For Beast, keep him blue. That's what makes him great, is that he is secure with himself.
Yeah.
All right, Dimension.
This movie is awesome. It's my favorite of all time. If this was the last X-Men movie, I would have been fine with that. Bryan Singer returning his directing duties is probably what made this movie so good in the first place, and probably what made the first 2 X-Men movies good in the first place. The opening sequence with your surviving mutants slowing down those terrifying Sentinels, fantastic. I know some people probably won't like the look of those Sentinels because they don't look as accurate at all to the comic books, but that's not my issue with the movie. I like how this movie brings in together our First Class and original cast from each and every continuity timeline. And the reason why I say I prefer the Rogue cut is because of Rogue in the movie, and it ties in Rogue and Wolverine, their friendship together when they met in the first movie, in the original X-Men movie. And I just love how much closure they gave to the original cast of X-Men, especially what they did in The Last Stand.
Yeah.
And yes, and Jennifer Lawrence did a much better job in this movie as Mystique than First Class.
Well, I'm glad you guys love this movie so much. I try to love it every time, and every time I'm just like, eh.
Did you see it in theaters?
I think I did, yes.
Oh, and still, wow, okay. I thought maybe it was a scale issue.
Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of time travel in most movies, and like Back to the Future, because to me it's like, time travel, you can fix any problem, and then it gets super convoluted, and you're back and forth, so it's tougher to follow. And then you have all these characters together, so you don't get a whole bunch of every one of these characters. Like Bishop, you only get to see a little bit, right? So you don't really get too much more on that character. So it's cool to see some of these faces, but I don't know. I want to love it. I try every time, and I'm just like, I don't know. Doesn't do it for me. All right.
That makes sense. It's more plot heavy than character heavy. Like I think the other X movies are character focused stories, and this is a plot heavy one. So the characters are just doing what the plot needs it to do instead of like being fun.
All right, we'll talk about a fun movie here. We got some Deadpool. Yes, I really like this Deadpool movie. It's probably my favorite out of all the Deadpools. There's just something about that opening scene. We always talk about these opening scenes. Ryan Reynolds, he is hilarious. Perfect casting. I would probably say he's the best cast X-Men character of all time. It's just his charisma, his personality to it is just great to see. I like how this one also ties in a romance with it as well. So that was kind of unexpected. You still have funny callbacks and jokes out there, like the Hugh Jackman, he staples the face on his face, and oh, that's hilarious. And the villain you just despise. You're like, man, I hope he gets this villain in the end. And then you got Colossus in here, and Colossus looks great in this one.
Yeah.
So, finally, to see more of Colossus was awesome in its like true comic book form. So yeah, I appreciated this one overall and had a great time with it. I can watch this one all the time too. It's very easy watching. All right, Ben, what are you thinking?
I loved it to the point where they went out on a ledge here. I mean, Fox went out on a ledge. You're like, okay, we're trying Deadpool. You just had a successful run of X-Men. Let's try Deadpool. A character who in the comic books, like, it works in the comics. So how are you going to take that to the screen? And yet they did very well. I enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed everything about it. I enjoyed him putting the team together. I enjoyed seeing Negasonic, Teenage Warhead in here. I'm like, this is what it's about. Like, this is X-Men. Usually X-Men are about those characters you don't hear about. And I love how they brought her into the entire storyline with Deadpool and everything. And how they had some of those younger mutants. I'm like going, are we actually getting like an actual X-Force like movie? Are we getting this? Because it's like, oh, Colossus could lead them. I'm like, this is actually perfect. And then all of a sudden it's like, nope, but it's a Deadpool movie. So I enjoyed every second of it. Ryan Reynolds, honestly, is by far, like it was said, perfect casting in this movie. Probably second to none to Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart in their respective roles. So,
Derek, you a fan of this one too?
Yeah, I like this one a lot. One thing with Colossus, because this movie breaks the fourth wall and it's very meta, very aware with Colossus, I do wish, because he's so different, I wish, because he has the ability to power down. We never see him power down, though. But I wish in this movie he did power down, and he powered down to the actor that played him in the X-Men films. I thought that would have been fun. And maybe just do it once, and then Deadpool says something funny. And for continuity's sake, power down real quick for us, really quick. And then we see that actor. I thought that would have been fun. But yeah, I thought this was great. And, it was sort of born out of that leaked footage that happened, that it sounds like Ryan Reynolds leaked it. And that gave Fox the confidence to make it, which is great because, they had the worst Deadpool any of us could have ever imagined through X-Men Origins. So something had to happen for them to be like, to gain confidence in this character. So, yeah, I'm glad it all worked out. And it was better than I could have imagined it being. So yeah, I really like this one.
Dimension.
I don't love it. Yes, it is a more accurate Deadpool. The romance comedy in this movie, nah. I can't. I think it drags the film for me. I try to love it, but I just can't. When he's fully on Deadpool, that's the best part. Absolutely, Mike. Definitely. I don't think the jokes in this movie are that funny. I tell you, one funny joke in this movie is when he cuts his arm off and he gives Colossus the middle finger. That's funny. And they kind of reshot the test footage before the movie got released. I actually like that. And yes, Colossus, he looks more comic book accurate. Along with, I actually kind of like that character. What's her name? Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
Yes.
Yeah. my biggest issue with Deadpool is the romantic comedy side of this film. I don't get into it. I don't buy it with him and his girlfriend. I don't. I think it's boring and it drags the film down. I think they. I'm really glad they got away from that in Deadpool 2, which we will get it. I will get it more to that. So okay. I try to love it, but I can't love it.
Man, I'm a sucker for romantic comedies. That was my favorite part.
Yeah.
All right,
And
Zach, how'd you feel?
I love rom-coms too. I appreciate this movie more than I love it. It was a breath of fresh air for the superhero genre at the time, being like a straight up comedic film, R-rated, taking chances with the slapstick, inappropriate joke stuff like that. This is my favorite Deadpool out of the three, but it's after the magic feeling I had in the theater, when I try to rewatch it, I don't enjoy it as much because I think the plot is very weak. It's carried by his joking, it's carried by the meta humors. I don't even want to say it's carried by the action because it's like he can't die, so it's never any stakes to it. But I appreciated what it did in terms of like giving us that breath of fresh air in the moment, because a lot of superhero movies are super serious and do this, and it's like it's always like this, and maybe you had little jokes here and there, and this is just a full-on comedy. So you're like adding a different genre to the superhero genre. So, and just to see Deadpool brought to life in that way and the passion for this film, I appreciate like Ryan Reynolds' passion and the people who wrote and directed this film, the passion that they have. It's just when you're ambitious like that and you're passionate like that, that talks to me like really well. Even if I don't love your full product, I appreciate it a lot.
And Derek, you were gonna add something there?
Oh, I lost it.
Oh,
My
no.
bad.
Sorry.
I kind of have to agree with Derek with the whole test footage thing too.
Mm.
I think Fox was smart in releasing it, or Ryan Reynolds was smart enough in leaking that because of how devastating X-Men Origins Wolverine was. Here you had a successful X-Men franchise. You're trying to take a character and make a solo film with it. Okay, Ryan Reynolds was like, let's leak the footage, see what happens, and then we go from there. If people don't like it, it won't happen. But if they love it, we'll go for it. And it's kind of like Fox is like, okay, we know what happened in Wolverine. It wasn't that great. Fans hated it. Let's see what happens, and that snowball effect happened. And I think them taking the chance just proved that Fox could do some right to the fans, for the fans, because of taking that chance.
I remember my point now. So when we were talking about romantic comedy, I think that aspect of it really helps give a lot of earned emotion, or earns a lot of the emotion that we feel in the sequels to Deadpool, because he's so crass, he's so humorous, but to see him have a heart also, I think is very important for this character, especially not only in this movie, but as we move forward with this character. So I do like the rom-com aspect and us getting so much of it here, because it establishes him as somebody who does care and does have a heart, even though he's, you know, projects all of these things that suggest he may not.
Even in the comic books, they have that thin line with him, with his relationships, and with him as Deadpool. The fans in the comics love the Deadpool side of things, because he breaks the fourth wall. Then they could care less about Blind Owl, Weasel,
His personal
Vanessa.
life.
Yeah, they could care less about that. But when you get into his personal life, like in the comic books, there's so much depth, and so it makes you feel for the character on a whole nother level. Okay, yeah, he has like that's when you learn he has cancer. Like he just jokes around, "Oh, I have cancer," all the time in the comic books, and then you find out that he has cancer, and that it's a struggle because everyone around him he's seen with cancer has died, but he can't. And so that's like, he's like, why am I here for? And those are the
Survivor
best
guilt.
parts. Yeah. Why am I different? And those are some of the best things in the comic books that make him the hero he becomes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think taking it here, and I love the progression in the next couple of films with Deadpool and his relationship outside of the superhero, being the superhero, his friends, his family, as he calls them. I love that because it shows you that here he is, a guy battling something himself, is scared of what may happen, but is still willing to do it for the people he loves.
All right. Well, we are now on to Apocalypse. Yay, Apocalypse. You know what? Actually, watching this one again, because I remember not really liking it, there's definitely some moments in here that are pretty cool. I do like seeing Nightcrawler again, right? Quicksilver's back. He has another cool kind of slow-mo scene. You also have Apocalypse finally, which I don't know. Sometimes he was a little goofy, but he was still super powerful. We might have been overpowered, but I like how he took control of Xavier and was using Xavier's mind. I thought that was really unique. I like how he upgraded all his like little villain minions. Seeing Psylocke. Psylocke was awesome in here. So there's some cool moments in here. Overall, it kind of loses it by the end. Yeah. All right, what do you think of this one, Zach?
I have been in the minority for decades. It feels like when this movie came out, 2016, so almost of liking this movie a lot. Like, yeah, I really enjoyed this film a lot. I liked Oscar Isaac's performance as Apocalypse. I know it's not super comic book accurate, but it's the X-Men films. They're barely comic book accurate. I think he did a really great job of bringing a regalness to this character, scariness to his character throughout the film. He does look like Ivan Ooze, which is always funny. I always
It's
thought that was
morbid
hilarious.
time.
Yeah. I just recently watched that Power Rangers movie and I was like, oh, Apocalypse. But yeah, like I forgot when you said Psylocke. Yeah, I love Olivia Munn as Psylocke. I think she does a great job here. Quicksilver's scene where he saves the people inside the house was amazing. I think that might be his best one. I'm not too big fan of Alexander Shipp as Storm. But Fassbender's fantastic again. That scene where he goes inside of Xavier and mind gets big and crushes him, I thought was amazing on the big screen. I Angel, like I really enjoyed a lot of aspects of this film. I do think it's a step down from First Class, just like Last Stand is a step down from First Class and Days of Future Past, but I still thought it was really, really good.
Ben, what do you think of this one?
I think they could have brought in Apocalypse a little bit differently. Like when you even think of the name Apocalypse, you think the end. You literally think the end. That's what that name invokes. But yet you still get Dark Phoenix after this. I think the two should be switched around, in my opinion, from a storytelling standpoint, because you have the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. You have war, pestilence, death, and famine. And I'm like going, okay, so when I first heard, okay, Apocalypse is in here, which version of the Horsemen are we getting? And I saw it, I'm like, oh, that's who you choose. Okay. I was a little disappointed in their choice of those characters of the Horsemen. Not saying that Storm wasn't a good choice. She was. Psylocke was. And I'm going, like, this is where I really wish they had the Hugh Jackman cameo instead of Days of Future Past. But I understood why they had it there. Seeing him as a
Weapon
Horseman of one of the Horsemen.
Ooh.
That way would have been just a completely different side, a more feral Wolverine. Kind of like what we got in Deadpool and Wolverine. Kind of similar to that aspect of the character. But seeing that in there, that would have been better. Oscar Isaac does a phenomenal job with what he's given. Yeah. That's all I can pretty much
What did you think of it, Derek?
No, I don't like this one. I don't like all the. I don't like the way Apocalypse was handled. He did feel small, like Ivan Ooze. You know, not only does he look like him, but he feels small. Like he's just the way he's like walking around. He doesn't feel larger than life at all. And I think I wanted that. I didn't like a lot of the younger X-Men in this one, like Cyclops and Jean, and I don't know, the way they were just kind of plopped in on us, and Storm. I don't know. I just couldn't see these people as these characters. Maybe it was because I'm too used to the originals, but I didn't have that problem with First Class, so I don't think that is necessarily the issue here. I I think my favorite part of this one, it wasn't done as well. It looked a little uh CGI-ish and fake, but I did like the Quicksilver scene. But yeah, this one, it felt rushed also. This was Bryan Singer again, and I think he had such a hit with Days of Future Past that they're like, "We gotta go. Let's get one. Let's get one. Let's get one." Because a lot of the CGI didn't look good either. Like everybody's mentioning Psylocke, and I remember there's this moment where she's jumping in, I don't know, doing a superhero landing sort of thing, and just behind her, it just looked like some of the worst green screen ever. I don't know. I don't like the look of this one, and I just didn't believe a lot of the characters in it. So this one, unfortunately, I hate it. I don't hate the movie. Maybe I do hate the movie, but I hate that it is a miss because I love this franchise, but this one, unfortunately, is a miss for me.
Dimension, what'd you think?
I kind of defend it. It's not as good as Days of Future Past because Bryan Singer directed it. I forgot to mention this about Days of Future Past, which is Quicksilver. Awesome. Awesome save sequences in that mansion. I understand Apocalypse is the Thanos to the X-Men. I wish they just made him at least maybe taller. He actually did get a little tall in
Dream.
Dream. I actually kind of like the casting of young Jean Grey, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, and even Jubilee, who disappears after this movie.
Mhm.
Yeah, they never keep her around. She pop up little bits here and there.
I don't know what to do with her.
And I
Yeah.
thought this was the beginning of the more accurate X-Men we know from the comic books.
Hmm.
And James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender. Oh, who would forget the way Michael Fassbender, Magneto, lost his family, his daughter and his wife, from those humans?
That was good.
Yeah, that was intense.
Yeah, that
So,
was strong.
Derek, what did you think of Blob in this one? Because you said in the last one, you said the last time he appeared in Origins that you didn't enjoy that version. What did you think of this one?
Ooh, I should have rewatched this one because I don't even remember Blob in it.
Me either. He was in this
Wow.
one.
Blob, he is in this movie.
Yeah, he's part of the Underground Fight Club.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh,
That was
okay.
I was
Yeah.
just curious because you brought that up earlier. I was just curious if you.
Ah, man, I
What's your thought?
I can only picture him, but I can't remember really what happened. Did he have more of a power there, where he
He kind of.
he could change his density,
Yes.
mass density?
Yes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I guess I would have liked that then. I don't remember.
all right. Next up, though, something that's definitely memorable. We got Logan that came out in 2017. Zach, you a fan of this one?
Yeah, I think it's one of the best comic book movies of all time. It's best Wolverine movie, one of the best X-Men movies. All the superlatives that you can give this film that people talk about. I should have had my steelbook for this. I have the noir version of Logan. I love watching it in black and white. So cool. Yeah, just X-23 I'm a fan of. I like her as a kid. I like when she grows up and becomes Wolverine. So seeing her in this was really, really cool to see. Seeing Logan finally age and be able to be hurt for real was really, really cool. And to see like an apocalyptic version of the X-Men was really awesome. And how they treated Professor X, how they treated what's that character that's Morph? Was it Morph in this or the albino character?
Gosh, no.
It wasn't
it
Morph.
wasn't Leech either. Gosh, what's his name?
I'm gonna Google him. It was damn. They don't even got him in the first main cast. Like, what the heck? I hate when they do that. But yeah, that character. Y'all all know who I'm talking about. All that character. He was really, really cool to see.
Caliban.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, the violence, it being R-rated, and the emotionality that brought to it, because it feels like, oh no, people are getting chopped up. There's like super stakes to this that people are gonna die. Obviously, the Terminator Wolverine killing Professor X, and then Wolverine has to fight a younger version of himself. Yeah, all that was just really, really cool. I wish they dwelled deeper into that, like him coming, seeing a younger self and like dealing with that. But I thought that the movie really dwelled into his psyche. It was more of a art house character study superhero movie, and I thought all that was dope.
Nice. All right. Oh, I got to shout out real quickly a super sticker here from Dark Room Reviews. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And Ben, what'd you think of Logan?
It's cinema. It's a good character study, like Zach was saying on that. I just wish we dove more into what happened with Professor X. With that whole thing. I know they mention it a whole lot. I would have loved to have seen it on screen.
Yeah.
And seen why he has to be the way he is now. I would have loved to have seen that. To me, that would have brought a lot more into why Logan's doing what he's doing. But it makes sense. This is like his only father figure he's had in his life. I understand that side, but I would have loved to have seen that. But the standpoint of him not wanting to be an X-Men to begin with, like from the first movie, thinking it's silly and not wanting to be part of the school, to the point where now in Logan, he's saving a bunch of kids. You can kind of see, like we talk about growth of characters in movies, you kind of see that there. And now it comes full circle. Here he is being that mentor, being their protector. And yet he's dying.
Mhm.
All right, Derek, what'd you think of this one?
Yeah, I really like this one. This is James Mangold returning. Most of you did not like him, I guess, in the Wolverine, or directing the Wolverine, or some of you. But yeah, he returns here and then gives us one of our greatest superhero movies that was nominated for best I guess adapted. It would have been adapted screenplay, which is really cool to have that honor. Bring superhero movies into the mix and other categories other than visual effects.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there are moments where, maybe on the farm, some of the things get a little slow, but I think those sort of moments are important for this sort of movie. So I feel like I understand that pacing and why that was done. But somebody who's, going into a superhero movie, if that's a complaint they have, I feel like I do understand that. I think that's like a valid maybe complaint with this movie. My biggest problem with it, though, even though I love it, is I don't like when characters have to battle themselves. Like like the metaphor is just like too obvious, I feel like, and I like roll my eyes. We saw that with Superman 3. We see that in
Man of Steel, we see
yeah,
that
Man of Steel and Scott
every season of
Pilgrim
The Flash.
versus the World, like when a character like has to battle themselves, I don't know, I always roll my eyes, and when this movie did it, I was like, "Oh, man, I felt like this movie was smarter." I still love it, but that part has always kind of been like, I don't necessarily love that.
I thought it should have been Sabretooth.
Oh, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
Which
At
one,
least-
Tyler Mane or Liev Schreiber?
Why not both? Why not have him like be Liev Schreiber looking like Tyler Mane?
Yeah.
Or like how you said the progression of him being animalistic but still being Liev Schreiber. I think that would have been
awesome.
Yeah.
I think I would have preferred that maybe. And had him maybe like he's been locked up and maybe that's why he's so animalistic in X-Men 1, that would have been cool.
And then Dimension, did you like this one?
Yes, it's a masterpiece. I watch it all the time. Brutal action. Hugh Jackman playing the older version. X-23. Fantastic. Patrick Stewart, again, as Charles Xavier, being sick is sad, but still great. I love it.
Supporting actor. He should have got supporting actor.
All right. Well, you guys love this one. I like it. I like it overall. It's well written. The dialogue's very good. I like how Logan's aged now and he's a little bit weaker, so that all works for me. But it feels less like a superhero movie to me. It feels more like a Western movie with super characters rather than a superhero movie. And I didn't even know that it was the same director of the Wolverine, so that totally makes sense why I'm like, why don't I love this one as much? But I still like it overall.
Kind of bizarre.
Yeah, it's just kind of a different way, I guess, of doing a superhero movie. So I'll give it points for being different, but I'm like, sometimes I just want a big giant superhero blockbuster action movie.
But did anyone else like the aspect of the corn that stopped mutants' powers going? Because it kind of comes full circle with what Magneto has been trying to tell Logan all along. The humans are not to be trusted.
Mm.
And it's like, here he is trusting this family and trying to keep them safe and trying to figure out what's going on this farm. And then all of a sudden, here's this other corporation, these other farmers wanting to stop the mutant issue from happening by having this genetically modified food that stops their X gene from
Developing.
coming to, from developing.
Like-
So it's like, you kind of see that in his face. He's like, I realize everything that they both were saying, and they both were right. Kind of like in that aspect, he goes, I must save mutant kind. Kind of like what Magneto wanted to do, because humanity is corrupt. But at the same time, I cannot escape from the human side of that from those that actually show love and compassion and stuff like that. So you kind of see him toying with that, and it kind of, that's why this is so good.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right. Well, speaking of so good, we have Deadpool 2 that came out in 2018. I'm a big Deadpool fan. I like this one as well. You got the raunchy R-ratedness to it all. Amazing action. The opening sequence, right? All James Bond like with the I love that. So great. Let's see. I do like Cable in this overall. Still not a massive fan of time travel stuff, but this one's a little bit more easy to follow than Days of Future Past for me, so it's okay. I'll give it a pass on that. I like Deadpool trying to be an X-Man in this one, right? He's an X-Men trainee, and I like that's hilarious. He has a trainee shirt on and all that. That was so funny. And then the X-Force moment. Oh my gosh, I was not expecting that at all to happen. And I'm like, wow. And then the greatest cameo ever by Brad Pitt.
Yes.
Oh, that was great. That was probably my favorite scene of the whole movie. That was hilarious.
That was good.
Yeah,
it
no,
was.
it's more Deadpool. So I thought it was pretty good overall. Juggernaut, I don't know, it didn't really work for me in this one, because then you just get a big like CGI battle at the end with him and Colossus. So I'm like, yeah, that was a
But
little
I also like this version of Juggernaut, like look wise, a lot better than the previous ones.
Yeah.
He was too CGI for me. I don't know. I kind of like the X-Men 3 one. But yeah, so I liked it overall. Ben, what'd you think?
I enjoyed it. As much as a DC fan I am, I love the aspect of him going through time, making sure Ryan Reynolds doesn't read the script of Green Lantern and killing himself as Wade Wilson in X-Men Origins and just sitting there. Don't worry, he's dead. That was by far the best use of time travel I've ever seen in a superhero movie. Just doing stuff like that. I especially enjoyed how they did Domino in here too.
Yeah.
When you bring her in and her power set doesn't really incorporate well in live action, but they did a good job of it in showing it in here.
Yeah.
And poking fun at that idea that, you know, it's odd. Like it's one of the hardest powers to grasp, I think.
It is.
Yeah.
Wait, so you're just lucky? What?
He's like, it's not a power.
Yeah, that's not power. Like it was so funny because I remember like reading the back of the cards, X-Men trading cards, and her power's luck. I'm like, I can't get it. You know, that never translated for me. And then it was funny to see in this movie, like Deadpool feels the same way.
And they made it very cinematic, and I think that was the most important part to make you buy into the character.
It helped me understand the power, honestly. I got it more because I don't read the comics much anymore, so I never really read her at all. But yeah, it was nice to see it in action, that luck play out.
Zach, you like this one?
Yeah, I do. I have a good time with this one. I think Josh Brolin is Cable is phenomenal. I think he does a great job bringing that the gruff of that character to life, and I love the Cable Deadpool's dynamic in the comics. So to see that together, I love Deadpool when he's paired up with people. I'm not a big fan of Deadpool by himself. So Deadpool Spider Man, Deadpool Wolverine, Deadpool Cable. I love when he's paired up with people because I think that he's not
He
reliant on
plays
the
he plays awful well.
yeah, he's not relying on the poopy set jokes. He has to
Yeah.
actually be a little bit more funny. He has to be
Yeah.
cut down to PG a little bit
Yeah.
when he's in other people's world. That's why I would love to see him with this Tom Holland, because he will have to play in the PG-13 world. But just this movie alone, Domino just was such a that whole chase sequence was amazing. I think the jailbreak sequence was great, and the whole like you're so dark like the DC universe that little call out was pretty funny. I think the action was done better here. I don't think this one is as funny as the first one. And since the plot is just as kind of paper thin as the first one, I think that's why it brings it down just a little bit because it's not as funny and just as nonstop. But I still had a lot of fun with it. It's not a bad movie at all.
And Dimension, was this better than the first Deadpool or worse?
I actually like this one slightly better than the first Deadpool movie. Well, one, I actually like that it makes fun of Origins, and I liked how it made fun of Green Lantern, and the way they made fun of Origins, like it looks like they actually reshot that sequence. Even had a Hugh Jackman cameo in the film, and it was kind of funny how he was interacting with Deadpool after killing, the butchered Deadpool. They're like, huh? I like fun characters like Domino and Cable, and I like that this movie is a much, much full accurate Deadpool. Like, get all the boring origin stuff out the way, and let's just be full on Deadpool. So fun movie. It is a little long in my opinion, though. It could have been cut down.
This also shows you kind of what Zach was talking about, where he's paired up with people and it makes a whole world of difference. It's kind of like writers of comic books. You can have someone who's a fantastic storyteller who writes the character one way, you're like thinking, oh yeah, this is the great way. This is the way this character should be. Then all of a sudden they're interacting with somebody else over here, and this writer's writing them completely different. But yet it's still the same comic book character you love. And I think that's why this excels, because it's almost like you're seeing another writer writing a comic book for Deadpool in this one. So,
all right, and next up we gotta have Dark Phoenix 2019. Oh yeah, I was hoping I was gonna like this one more on the rewatch. Like Apocalypse, I liked a little bit more on the rewatch. This one, not so much. Oh gosh, you could tell Jennifer Lawrence was just done with being Mystique at this time. She's like, just get me out of this franchise. I don't want to be here anymore. So yeah, that was a bummer. And she was still turning back into like Jennifer Lawrence a lot. You're like, why am I still seeing Jennifer Lawrence? Isn't she comfortable being Mystique now? I don't get it. So that was weird. I don't know. They never get the Dark Phoenix character right. And I feel like this got super over convoluted too as well. Because then Ben, you probably know the story. Was the story accurate where you got those like aliens at the end and those kind of villains? Yeah.
A little bit, yes.
Okay, I don't know. To me, I'm just like, what is happening now? I'm so confused.
See, I agree with you on that aspect, Mike, of the whole they can't do Phoenix right, because you haven't really brought in cosmic powers to this point yet in here. Because your Galactus in Fantastic Four was a fart cloud, for Pete's sake. It's like Wario showed up in that movie. It's a Wario. But anyways, it's like he showed up in there. That's the reason why the Phoenix powers don't correlate well yet. Because you don't have the likes of a Galactus. You don't have the likes of a Thanos yet. You don't have this whole galactic colossal power set yet in your franchise. So it kind of is dumbed down, watered down a little bit as to the extent of her powers.
Yeah, isn't she supposed to be like in space as well? Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't.
She's
really
a cosmic entity. She's the Phoenix is one of the founding building blocks of the entire universe.
Yeah.
So yes, but they don't mention that in there. So it's like that would bring more why this is such a big
Gravitas.
deal. Yeah, gravitas. Why this is such a big deal. Why she is so powerful. And even in Last Stand, they don't even bring that up either. So it's like, oh, it's Phoenix. Everyone loves the Phoenix.
It's like a manifestation of her trauma or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Instead of like something that's feeding on her trauma from a different world.
exactly. Mhm.
Zach, you weren't feeling this one either.
It's not good. It's the only, well, Origins is not good, but I liked half of Origins, right? Like I like half of that film, then it falls off another half. I was completely. This is another movie I watched for the first time. I tapped out of the X-Men franchise after Logan. I was like, I'm done. I'm not watching Dark Phoenix. They're about to get bought, and we're not. This movie doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
I remember a lot of people, and then like just put this on a streaming service. Nobody cares anymore. Like New Mutants too. It was just like, well, we didn't talk about that. I actually like that more than this, but it was boring. It was just you, and the thing that I feel like the X-Men movies did really well is that the actors were passionate about who they were. You could tell that they took it very seriously. Comic book movies weren't just a joke to them, and that's like a problem I have with a lot of actors now. Like they don't take it as serious as these actors did, and every single actor looked like they were just tapped out. It's like I have to be here. I just have to be here because it's in my contract. That's what it felt like.
Mhm.
The only positive I have is the train scene, right? The train scene was awesome. Magneto, and that was like the first passionate scene in the movie to me. And Magneto just ripping people apart. Jessica Chastain was miscast, whatever this alien is supposed to be. I know they were supposed to be like originally Skrulls, and then the MCU was like, no, we're doing that. So they changed it to some no-name mutant, aliens that people don't really know about. And I just don't think it worked. Like the scope of the Phoenix, like everyone says, has to be like otherworldly. Like X-Men doesn't just stay on Earth. A lot of their important storylines go to time travel or in space. They spend a lot of time in space for a team that you think deal with earthly racism problems. So I think the movie was just too small of a scope for how big the story they were trying to tell.
Yeah.
And then all the actors just was not in it. Like when you have Michael Fassbender phone it in, that is when you really have a problem because he's always passionate in everything I see him in.
And he loves that character too.
He loves that character. James McAvoy loves Xavier. You know what I'm saying? Like the scene where she made Xavier like get up and walk, that was cool because it was kind of messed up. But like everything else is just absolutely boring.
All right, Dimension. How'd you feel on this one?
This movie is overhated because I kind of have a thing for Sophie Turner as Jean, struggling with her powers. I absolutely love Hans Zimmer's score. I listen to this epic score all the damn time. That train sequence is one of the most epic action sequences I've ever seen in a comic book movie. So, but at least the story focused more on Jean than what they did in Last Stand. It's like they were trying to learn from their mistakes in Last Stand. And I guess I was kind of sad about Mystique's death, but I understand Jennifer Lawrence was done. So I'm not complaining about that. This movie was not meant to be one movie. It was going to be two-parters. But I think the Disney Fox merger thing hurt that. Would cause that to be canceled. So they had to make it one movie. So I'm not too upset about that. I would have loved to see them continue the story in a two-parter, and then maybe it wouldn't be as hated as it is now. I think I'm forgetting. I think I want to say something else about this movie.
That's all right. We'll come back to you to mention if you think of it. Derek, how'd you like this one?
I don't like this one. Also, Jessica Chastain, one of the greatest actresses of our time, not even on the cover. Like, did she put it in her contract? I don't want to be associated with this. So yeah, I have a lot of issues with it. I thought, like, I can't even remember the train sequence everyone's talking about, but I remember this one part in the movie where I feel like there's just like cars maybe like parked in between maybe like Magneto and Beast or something, and a building, and like the action sequence is them just like crossing the street.
Yeah.
And it's like it's so bad. That set piece just looks so terrible. You can tell it's there's just nothing cinematic about it. It's sad that this was supposed to be like, okay, we didn't do Phoenix right in the third X-Men film. We're going to do it right this time. And then it's like worse. How did they do that? And the director here, Simon Kinberg, was he? I think he might have been a producer on 3, maybe a writer or a producer.
He wrote 3.
He wrote 3. Okay, so I don't know. He's getting a second chance at this, and he just didn't do a great job. I don't know how many films he had directed before, maybe none. But I just don't think he did it that great of a job, or maybe I don't know. But yeah, the things with Jennifer Lawrence and also Quicksilver, the way they get knocked out so soon, like that is something that you can tell it wasn't supposed to be in the script, but it's like Jennifer Lawrence is done and doing other projects. And I think, what's his name? The actor?
Evan Peters.
Evan Peters. Yeah. I think he was maybe busy with
American Horror Story.
American Horror Story. So it's like, as I'm watching it, and somebody who doesn't know what else is going on in behind the scenes Hollywood world might just watch it and be like, oh wow, those are big characters to get rid of. That's surprising and new. That's like Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock Psycho.
Yeah.
But when you, I guess, know a little bit more about what's going on, it's like, oh yeah, those actors are busy. They can't make time for the film, so they're going to write them out, really, so that they don't have to be on screen. And all of that was just so obvious, and it was such a bummer to go out like this with this franchise. And that's why I'm so thankful for one we haven't talked about yet.
All right. Well, next up, we got The New Mutants 2020. And while this movie took forever to come out, I felt like it was announced for the longest time, and then it got delayed, right? But I appreciate this one. I like how they do a different genre here. They go more the horror genre, where I actually like horror movies. So Logan was the Western. I didn't really care for Westerns that much. But horror movies, yes, I'm all for it. So I appreciated The New Mutants for that. I liked Anya Taylor-Joy in here was great. Her powers and Lockheed was so cool. So yeah, I like this. And the nightmare sequences I thought were really cool and creepy and just terrifying in a way. So yeah, I liked a lot of this movie. Derek, you enjoyed this one too?
Yeah, I like this one too. I don't put this one in the bad. I kind of put this one in maybe the middle ground, I guess, for me. Like when I'm thinking of the good ones versus the bad ones, I don't put this in the bad section. Like you said, I like the horror aspect of it. And I think what was kind of going on during this time, this was kind of the goal where Fox was going to go before the Disney purchase, was they'd seen a lot of success with the Fast and Furious franchise sort of hopping into these different genres a little bit. It's all Fast and the Furious, but like 2 is a buddy comedy. You have the heist film, you have the high school movie, you have that kind of going on. And they went Western with Logan. This was horror. I know they were planning on making a multiple man movie with gosh, what's his name? He's 127 Hours. James Franco. He was supposed to be multiple man.
Yeah.
And that was going to be a heist movie. And then I think maybe Gambit, was going to be, robbery, thievery or something, because that was supposed to happen also.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about this, the horror aspect, like the nightmare, the ghost. I think they could have pushed it further, and I wish they would have pushed it further and just been like, actually, this is a horror movie. It's horror before it's superhero, but it's still superhero before horror. So I wish they would have pushed it, but I was glad when this came out, and when I watched it, because I heard only bad things. And then when I watched it, I was like, well, thank goodness it didn't end on Dark Phoenix. Thank goodness this is the last one. I know everybody else doesn't like it, but for me, this is a better way to go out.
Zach, what did you think of this one?
My buddy Kenny Sparks is in the chat, and his YouTube name used to be See For Yourself, because that's exactly what you need to do. Because I heard so much bad stuff about New Mutants for so long. This is another movie I just watched recently because I never watched it originally, and I really enjoyed it. It has a lot of actors that I like in it. You brought up Anya Taylor-Joy. I think she's one of the best young actresses right now. She does a great job as Magic. I really like Blue Hunt, Maisie Williams, Charlie Heaton from Stranger Things. I think they all did a good job and had really great chemistry together. I like the idea of the horror aspect for mutants because a lot of the stuff that happens to them is horrific. So it makes sense to make a horror movie around young ones. The fact that they thought they were being trained to be X-Men, but that's not what was happening. I think that was really good. And a really great through line. I don't think the movie's scary at all. That's why it's kind of lower on my list.
Yeah.
But the horror elements elevate all the stuff that's happening, the psyches for the characters. And I think the VFX was surprisingly great. Especially for a movie that seems like it was gonna get shelved, not come out. There was a lot of talk about it not ever coming out for a long time or being sent to like the DVD bin because they're just like, we're not gonna drop this. But I'm kind of glad that they did because it elevated the movie interest. Like, oh, they actually released it in theaters, so it's watchable. And then now that I watched it, I'm like, damn, I wish I actually supported it because it's actually a really solid X-Men film.
Agree. Yeah.
All right, and Ben.
I first saw this when I went and rewatched everything else. Just because it's like I'm not huge into the horror genre. So for me hearing that, I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna watch this. But I love seeing the New Mutants. Like, this is actually the lineup of the New Mutants in the comic books. I actually love them in that aspect. But what gets me in this movie and why it's low on my list is that this is the second time in an X-Men movie we've had a mention of Mr. Sinister and have never fully got a Mr. Sinister in a movie. So
Disney will do it.
oh yeah, I know they will, but I'm just saying it's like that. And I also thought they missed the ball with like not having actually Daphne Keene in here. And kind of tying this to the end of Logan in a lot better of a way that they could have. I think having that in there might have actually made this a little bit more successful than what it was.
All right, Dimension. How'd you like New Mutants?
I like it. It was the first movie I saw in the theater during COVID. It is interesting horror. I like those kids. I like these kid mutants, especially Anya Taylor-Joy, who definitely stole the show. Fun. It is a short movie though, but still, it is a fun horror-like movie based in the X-Men universe.
All right, let's take a look now at Deadpool and Wolverine, and audience. Spoiler warning, possible spoilers. I'm not going to try to give away any major plot points here, but if you're like really sensitive to anything, then, come back when we click individual rankings. Or if you've seen the movie, which a lot of people have because box office did amazing. We're going to talk about this one right now. Let's, Ben, you look like you're ready. Go for it.
Oh, you're on mute, bud.
Muted. I guess not.
Oh,
not
sorry. There we go. There we go. There's a rule, Mike, out there that if you're close to making $1 billion, you're free to discuss whatever you want about it. Because obviously there's enough people out there who've seen it in order to rank it that type of money.
Multiple viewings, though. A lot of people seen it 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
But about this movie, this is how you do a multiversal movie. Meaning Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness just touched the base of that, and it didn't seem right in that movie. Here, it made a lot more sense. It seemed a lot more flushed out in trying to make it an entire multiverse, trying to explain what a multiverse is. And bringing in a lot of the older X-Men from the entire franchise in here, plus the Foxverse as well, movies in here. Just shows you what you can do if you're right on and know your writing and know your story of what you want to in a multiverse. The villain on this, I really wish, like I said with Logan, I wish we really dived into what happened with Professor X. I really wish they would have shown us Cassandra Nova and Charles, and kind of. I know they show it in the comic books a lot, but kind of just did a flashback of that. Like, kind of like, here's what happened as she's explaining it. It's a way you bring in a character that no one knows as your villain, as one of your villains, and there's no backstory. She just does it in a monologue without actually seeing it. I think it would brought much more to the plate with her character if they showed a lot more of that. But beyond that, I love Hugh Jackman in here. I love Ryan Reynolds in here. I love the entire core that shows up too. Only issue with that is there's no panda pool.
I know,
Where's
right?
Panda
How do you
Pool?
not
Yeah.
have Panda Pool?
Exactly. How do you not have that? And you have that sick, weird, twisted dog of his. So
Zach, what'd you think of this one?
I think this is one of the best turn your brains off comic book movies that we've had. In the theater, I was having so much fun. Bye, dick this, F that, all these slapstick jokes and all just these ripping skin off and references to this and talking about the Loki episode and all the fourth wall breaks and everything was really, really fun for like, I would say 90% of the movie. I think the last 20 minutes probably slow down a bit in terms of the momentum and the fun. It got a little bit more emotional. And I think that was like my problem with the ending of the film because like I didn't buy into all the emotional beats of this film. I think that while the movie's really, really fun and I laughed a lot, I think the story is a gobbledygook mess. And I wish the cameos were used stronger in terms of like where you think about like No Way Home. I think that they used Toby and Andrew to elevate Tom and to make them actual characters where I feel like you said I don't want to do spoilers, but the people who they cameoed in this film and like stayed around for a long time, they were just they're in the suit again, and that's kind of all they did. And I could talk about X-23 because she was in the trailer. I think she was wasted in this film to me.
Mhm.
But with all that negatives, it's still really fun. So it makes sense why it's going to make $1 billion because you can go and rewatch this movie over and over and just laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh. But in terms of like a story aspect for me, I just wish it was you could laugh all that time and then also the story kind of like was stronger and was not as messy. Like the anchor being stuff, I didn't like the concept of that. I don't like at all. And Cassandra Nova, I think her powers were some of the coolest visual powers I've ever seen in a movie. She looked awesome. The finger thing, I thought that was crazy. Like you said, I wish they did a little bit more showing than telling. Show why this Logan is the worst Logan. I thought when they finally told us why, I was like, no, he's not. Logan does this all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And then like show us why she's in the void, like why she's so dangerous that she's needed to be in the void in the first place. Because I thought the void was made for variants of characters, not so like it was like a little bit of messy stuff that was in there. But the movie is just really, really fun overall.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I thought the story was very difficult to follow. I've seen the movie twice and I'm still questioning, wait, how does this really work? I'm once again not a big fan of the time travel stuff. So you got the time variance authority in there. And then I'm like, okay, wait, this is like a different Deadpool here or different universes. And I'm over the multiverse. I'm like, shut down the multiverse. I don't want no more multiverse movies. So even though this did the multiverse probably better than any of the other MCU movies, I'm still just not a fan of multiverse in general.
Get used to it, Mike. You have it for at least another 2 to 3 years.
I don't want it. No, erase it. Just start over, reboot.
You don't like the Spider-Verse movies?
Yeah, I do like those, but still not the multiverse part of it. Yeah.
Zach, I think you hit the nail on the head here too with the Spider-Man, because that felt like closure for Toby and Andrew's characters. Versions of Spider-Man there. Whereas the other ones here, in some ways, felt like closure, but not real closure, if that makes sense.
It almost felt like opening them back up again.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they
Yeah.
wanted them to continue on and be those characters in the MCU. Where I'm like, that's not gonna work. They're too old for this. First of all, one of them no one cares about. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah.
I
but
was
wanna
born
take it up.
here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought
Oh,
those cameos
that
were
was so funny.
much
I'm gonna make a
more
name for
shock
myself. Yeah.
value. Yeah. Much
Yeah.
more shock value than adding to the actual story and where the story would go next. So this
Yeah.
movie has a lot of cool moments in here.
Mhm.
All the different action scenes are really well executed. It has its funny moments. I do like seeing Wolverine and Deadpool finally together. But yeah, to me, yeah, it gets
Suit.
the fan service stuff right, but story just confusing. All right, Derek, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, I think it was some of the best fan service we have seen. For me, I think the only part that I was super confused on was, and I'm glad I watched Loki, because if I hadn't watched Loki season 1, and I don't watch, I've kind of given up on MCU, but I did watch Loki season 1, and I'm glad, because if I didn't watch that, I wouldn't understand what's happening with the TVA. That would have made zero sense to me. But gosh, I was going somewhere with that, but I just lost it.
You said one thing didn't make sense to you.
Yes.
Oh yeah, thank you. The one thing that didn't make sense to me was with Happy.
Yeah.
When we see him, is he in the MCU?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did
That's 616. That's the main continuity timeline. So that's
Yeah.
the Battle of New York timeline.
right, but so with the Deadpool that we see talking to him, who's that?
That's our
That's-
Deadpool.
That's Fox Deadpool?
Yeah, he traveled to the 616
How did
to
he
try
get
to
there?
join the Avengers at the time thing, I guess.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, gotcha. All right, now I get it.
I don't
was
get
just
it now.
like, okay,
Well,
I got
it
was
another
so
Deadpool
confused.
or the same Deadpool, and if it is the
But-
different one, how did he hop
it was the
universes, not
it was
just
the
time?
Deadpool. It was the Deadpool, the stuff he got from Cable in 2
Right,
that caused him to do that. So
right, okay. I guess I was a little lost because I guess I understood the time shift, but maybe not that he could also shift universe also.
They didn't
Um,
explain that well.
So yeah, now it makes sense. Thank you so much.
They're like, don't ask
Now it is a
questions,
great,
enjoy.
amazing, flawless film to me. No, but I did like the cameos. I almost hate to call them cameos because I think they did serve a purpose with like emotionally. It wasn't like they're just there and then gone. They had, their own universes that they are also, trying to save, and
the heroes, yes, the villains,
yeah.
not so much.
right, yeah, I guess the
They didn't
villains.
talk.
But
The
I did
villains didn't talk.
I did like seeing all of them. I would have loved to have seen Ang Lee's Hulk. I would have loved to have seen and Eric Bana would have been awesome to see him. And then same thing with Nicolas Cage as Ghost Rider, just to sort of make it feel complete. And here's another thing, because Deadpool is very aware, meta, break the fourth wall, the lack of Weasel and him not being included in the family. And I, know it's all behind the scenes stuff that went on, reality, stuff, but I feel like he almost needed to address it in some way. And maybe that's in poor taste and crass to do that, but it's weird because he's like, this is my family. And it's like, but we're also missing someone who was there, from the beginning.
A stand-in, at least. Someone with the long hair that you see in a distance.
Right. Because they
Yeah.
did that with some of the villains, like Juggernaut, they gave us the old look from 3, but that wasn't Vinnie Jones,
No.
So they
And it
could've
wasn't
done
Ray
something like that
Park
with Weasel.
Toad. It wasn't Ray Park Toad. It
Oh,
wasn't.
wasn't?
No.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't the Russian from. It wasn't the correct Russian from Punisher either. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it was variants of those guys. So yeah.
right. Yeah. So I had some issues with it, but I had so much fun. I actually had I got choked up like 2 times during it. Like my body wanted to cry. And are we doing spoilers for this?
Sure.
I feel like
Okay.
Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning.
When Wolverine did pull up his mask and then it started, like I had tears falling from from my eyes. And then same thing with the end, like with Green Day's Good Riddance at the very end. Watching all those behind the scenes footage, I was crying during it. So, even with the issues I have with it, I can't deny that movie, that did so much to me on an emotional level. And it was like seeing dreams come true. Gambit is a top 5 character for me. So to see him done the way he was done, it was so cool. Sorry. Oh, I kept spoiling. Okay. Yeah. Gambit's in it too.
All right.
It's all over social media.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, at this point.
I'll make a name for myself here.
Yeah.
Dimension,
dialect,
how'd
Coach?
you like this one?
I think this may be the best Deadpool movie in my opinion. It was great to see Hugh Jackman come back. We all thought he was done for a long time after Logan, and I love some of the fun humor. It's not overly funny. It has good action. It felt like a tribute to the Fox X-Men universe, and I love the fan service. I actually liked they brought back Sabretooth from the original X-Men movie.
Yeah.
Even though it didn't last very long. And whoever thought we would see Chris Evans again playing Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four movies.
That was cool. It was a cool reveal.
It was.
And whoever thought we would see Wesley Snipes once again as Blade. And he was like, there's only one Blade. All because the MCU Blade reboot is in it's
limbo.
delayed.
Limbo
Never start filming.
And he's the true guy to thank for all of this.
Yeah, so overall, it's a fun, entertaining movie. Well, is it maybe the best Deadpool movie in my opinion? I'll have to rewatch it a couple more times when I get a chance to. But love Wade Wilson, love Wolverine, love our beloved characters, X-23, who's now fully grown up, and I actually liked Jennifer Garner once again as Elektra.
Yeah.
Those movies may have not been the greatest, but I think Jennifer Gardner looked gorgeous as Elektra. And yeah, I'm actually glad we got to see a comic book accurate Gambit, and all that kind of stuff too. Pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to talk about individual rankings here, but before we do that, we're going to make a little prediction. I'm going to have you guys tell me what you think the top 3 group rankings will be. So, what do you think is going to be 1, 2, and 3? Ben, what are you thinking here?
Logan, Deadpool, and Wolverine, and X-Men.
Okay. All right, Zach, what are you thinking?
I don't have an exact order, but I'll say Logan, Days of Future Past, and probably Deadpool.
All right. And Derek?
Same as Zach.
Okay. Dimension?
Days of Future Past, Logan, and X2.
All right.
Ooh.
So let's go through our individual rankings now. All right, Derek, you got your individual ranking list?
Yes.
You want to start from the bottom, go up to the top?
Okay, so my least favorite is Dark Phoenix. Don't like that one. Terrible way to end it. And then after that is X-Men Origins Wolverine. And then after that is, if I can find it, Apocalypse. Don't like this. So those are really the only 3 that I would say like I don't like out of all of those. The rest I like and love and think are amazing. So now we're going to New Mutants. I would never, even though it's so low, I wouldn't say I dislike this movie. Then we have the first Deadpool. And then we have Deadpool 2, which I guess I don't own. I thought I did. I really love Cable. Cable was my stepdad's favorite character. And again, he introduced me to the X-Men. So he's passed away. And I'm so sad I didn't get to watch this movie with him. But like that, more than anything, I wish I could have seen that movie with him. And then we have X-Men The Last Stand. And then after that, we got First Class. After First Class is Deadpool and Wolverine. Like I said, I can't deny those tears it brought, even if it is a little messy. And then after that is Logan. Then, oh shoot, sorry, I missed the Wolverine. The Wolverine was after New Mutants. Sorry about that, missed that one. So yeah, after Logan is Days of Future Past. I just thought this was done so well, such a great story, and I'd say the theatrical version, not the Rogue cut, even though I have that here. And then X2. This one is just held up incredibly well, and you know we all still talk about that Nightcrawler scene.
Yeah.
And then number one, because it was a dream come true, is the first X-Men movie. And like everybody said, it still holds up to this day, against everything else that we are seeing. Wonderful film, and it's number one.
All right, Zach.
Dead last is X-Men Dark Phoenix for all the reasons I said before. X-Men, that's the only movie I don't like here. X-Men Origins Wolverine is a bad movie that I like because half of it I like, and then like there's parts of the third act I like, but most of it is gobbledygook. The Wolverine is a step up, but like not amazing to me. I like Last Stand because it's the culmination of the first two movies, and I like a lot of aspects. And seeing Dark Phoenix for the first time brought to live action just blew my mind. So there's some nostalgia barriers there. New Mutants, like I said, is just a really fresh take, and it's horror. I really liked all the cast and the chemistry. Deadpool and Wolverine, really, really fun, just really, really messy. And not all the comedy worked for me. Deadpool 2, step up for me in terms from Deadpool and Wolverine. I like Cable a lot. Deadpool's just the best one to me because it's so funny and fresh. Apocalypse, I know I'm in a minority, just really, really like that film. And then there's X-Men 1, it's classic. Logan, X2 is next, just really strong films. And then like First Class, I just have a special place in my heart. I can't, every time I watch that movie, I just love it. And then number one is Days of Future Past.
All right, Ben.
All right. My bottom five were the easiest ones I labeled, but then going up from there was like kind of tough for me. My number 14 was Wolverine, the Wolverine. It's in my opinion, it's okay. I just didn't care for it. The New Mutants, like I said, it was my first time watch, so that's low because of that. Apocalypse, X-Men Origins, Dark Phoenix rounds up my bottom five. Then we go Deadpool 2, Days of Future Past, First Class, X2, X-Men, Deadpool, DNW, so Deadpool, Wolverine, Logan, and for me, it's The Last Stand.
Ooh, that's the top one right there for you.
Wow.
The Last Stand. I like it.
Wow.
All right, Dimension.
All right. Last place for me is Origins Wolverine. Meh. 13 is Last Stand. It has its moments, but I can't stand the way they took out Cyclops in that movie. 12th place is Apocalypse. There's enough moments in that movie to make me go, okay. And then number 11 is The Wolverine, which is decent. 10th place is the first Deadpool movie. I'm not a huge fan of romantic comedies. 9th place is First Class. It's just kind of boring for a prequel movie. 8th place is Deadpool 2, which I like slightly better over the first one. Number 7 is The New Mutants, pure fun. Number 6 is now Deadpool and Wolverine, probably the best one. Number 5, Dark Phoenix, overly hated. Number 4 is the first X-Men movie, which began the comic book industry in the 2000s. Number 3, X2 X-Men United, fantastic sequel. Number 2, Logan, such a brutal, dark, emotional story from start to finish, masterpiece. And then number 1, Days of Future Past, and I think the Rogue cut is my definitive cut that I stick with.
All right. See, I love these ranking lists. They're all so different.
They are.
For my bottom, the Wolverine. It bored me to tears. Could not get through it on a rewatch. So yeah. Next up, Dark Phoenix. Yeah, tons of issues there. Same with Origins, tons of issues. But there's still a couple fun moments in those. Days of Future Past. I know everybody loves it. I just, yeah, don't like the time travel plot. Apocalypse, once again, some cool moments in there, but loses me by the end. Logan, not a Western fan. New Mutants, I think that one's overly hated. I really like the horror aspects. X3, The Last Stand, I think that one gets overly hated too. It has a really cool moment though. And then the Deadpool movies are all there in the middle. We got Deadpool 3, Deadpool 2, and then Deadpool 1. And then top 3, First Class. Every time I watch First Class, I like it even more. So it keeps up. It's so good. And then X-Men 1 and then X-Men 2 at the top. Those are two of my favorite superhero movies of all time. I think I would still put them on a top 10 list or top 15 at the very least. So, yeah, they just keep up amazingly well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, is anybody still confident in their top 3?
It sounds like Future Past is still going to be up there.
All right.
I mean, you bring it down, but
I brought it down a little bit. All right, well, let's check it out. So, for our group ranking reveal here, I crunched the numbers. So this is everybody's scores put together. So at the bottom, all right. X-Men Origins, Wolverine got a whopping 12 points. I didn't have to bust out the calculator for that one. Let's just say that. All right, who's gonna guess what's after that?
It's gotta be Dark Phoenix.
Dark Phoenix.
Nope. Sorry, 13th place. Wolverine, 14
I didn't bring
points.
that one up.
Me and Bedbuster just destroyed that one. That one, we just tanked it. But you guys are right with the next one. 12th place, Dark Phoenix, 19 points. But that's still a pretty big jump up. 5-point difference right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next one. Anybody have a guess?
APOC.
Apocalypse?
Yes.
Yeah.
Apocalypse, but 23 points. That's still a big jump up right there.
That's
all right. Oh, yeah. You brought it up for sure. Next guess? What's
Last Stand?
Yeah.
New Mutants.
Oh, right.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that makes sense.
But you guys are pretty close there with 9th place, Last Stand, 36 points. That one did better overall than I was expecting. So,
well, Ben, that was.
Oh yeah, Ben just.
Yeah, you jumped that one up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then next up, any guesses?
Maybe a Deadpool.
Yeah,
Deadpool 2.
Ah, there we go. We got
makes sense.
Deadpool 2, 37 points. All right, and then what do you guys think is going to be the next one?
I would say maybe
The first X-Men.
Deadpool.
Okay.
41 points.
I feel like all the Deadpools are coming up right now.
Yeah, and if you guys know the trend, Deadpool and
Wolverine.
Wolverine, 46 points. So none of the Deadpool movies made the top 5.
Top
Even though they're really celebrated now and everybody seems to generally like them, did not crack the top 5 X-Men franchise. So that was really interesting. All right, so now we're into 5th place here. Anybody has a guess for 5th place?
I would say
First Class.
X-Men, maybe the first X-Men.
Maybe Days of Future.
First Class, 48
You
points.
didn't like it.
First Class. Okay.
All right, and then you guys are right. I brought down Days of Future Past just a little bit. 51 points.
So I'm going to say
shot just now.
I'm going to say 2. Which ones are left? There's 2. There's X-Men.
1, 2,
And then Logan.
And Logan.
Oh,
So I'm going to say it in that order. I'm going to say 2, 1, Logan.
Logan.
Well, you are not correct, Ben Buster.
Dang it.
Logan. I know.
Logan, 54 points. I think I brought that one down too, just a little bit.
I might have also because I had a 4. You know.
Yeah, it was right on my 3rd on my list.
All right, and then 2nd place. What do you guys think it is?
Is it United?
The first
Is it United?
one.
Gotta
X-Men.
be
The first one, X-Men, 58 points. So that leaves first place X2, 60 points. That was number one on my list. So I was happy with that.
That is so cool. And like
You
ever
rigged it.
since,
I'm joking.
well, sorry, ever since that movie came out, I mean, it's always been talked about as one of the greatest, one of the greatest. You know, it's like that movie and Spider-Man 2, I would say, are just always on a list. You know, when we're talking about greatest superhero movies, usually, you know, if it's not a list of all MCU, those two are included. So that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Any other shocks and surprises on that list for anybody, or did that feel pretty good?
Can't argue with the top 5.
Yep.
I think my favorite part of this was seeing the love or acceptance. Maybe love's not the right word, but the way we all spoke on New Mutants. I was expecting that to be trashed the way it was when it came out. People had already formed opinions on it before it even came out. And those opinions were so strong that it led me to wait to see it until I bought it. Like I knew I was going to buy it because it was an X-Men movie, but I didn't see it in the theater. And then I was like mad at myself for not seeing it in the theater. I shouldn't have listened to what everybody was saying.
That's why it was low on my list, because one, it was a first time watch for me, so I might have to watch it again. 2, I'm not a huge horror fan, so that's why it was down that low for me.
But yeah,
but I'm not even a fan of the New Mutants in the comic books, because the team's better as X Factor or X Force than they are the New Mutants. So
yeah, so I was glad to hear everybody's thoughts on that one. That was cool to learn all those insights that all of you had on that film.
All right, so we'll go and kind of land this plane now. You can let the audience know where to find you, but also I'm going to give you guys one more question just to scratch the brain a little bit more that you could also answer. Where should they go next with X-Men? Okay, where should they go next? And just keep this really quick after you let people know where they can find you. I'll start the question off. I just want to reboot the whole thing. No more time variant stuff. No more multiverse stuff. We've moved on. Deadpool and Wolverine did a good job kind of celebrating and closing everything with the credits. Let's move on. I don't need to see the other X-Men characters again. We've already got that. I don't need to see Hugh Jackman be Wolverine until he's like 80. Like, I got 90, enough of him now.
This in the movie, 90.
Yeah, I don't need to see it. He did a great job with Deadpool and Wolverine, but now just start it over and do a more consistent timeline without going all convoluted. But yeah, that's what I would think. And you guys know where to find me, of course. Mega Mike the Movie Man. Follow me on all the socials. And Ben Buster. What do you think? What should they do with X-Men next?
What I personally think they should do with X-Men is not an origin story. Like the team's in existence already. We've got the origin stories in First Class. We got the origin stories in the original trilogy. So if you need an origin story, yeah, go watch those for some of these characters. Just bring them in as already an established. I mean, yes, obviously it's going to be whatever world they're going to be in. In order for them to come here, it's like they're already established. So bring them in as an established group already. Yeah, I mean, it could even be led by, say, it's the Jean Grey School for gifted youngsters. Professor X is dead. Jean's taking over the school. Scott's the field general, the field leader. 97. Yeah, kind of like X-Men 97, exactly like that. You've already brought in that, so why not just build up from what you already established in 97 and bring it forward that way?
All right. And where can people find you?
You guys can find me on all social medias at the Ben Buster. I'm right here on YouTube. I do a live stream every Tuesday night. This upcoming Tuesday night, I'm talking my top 10 back to school movies. So movies dealing with going back to school, since that's this time of the year right now.
That's a good one. Yeah, I can't wait to watch that. Derek, what do you think they should do?
I kind of got two ideas. I like, because Deadpool and Wolverine, they didn't like enter the MCU. I do like seeing that as closure. So like you, I do like the idea of starting fresh. And maybe maybe one of the ways they could start fresh is Doctor Strange opens up some portal, and then X-Men 97 walks through it, and then we're watching a Roger Rabbit style world where we have animated and live action going on. I know that would never happen, but that would be wild if it did. So maybe something like that. I don't know. So yeah, my channel is called Pure Hangout. You can also find me on Twitter, but I don't do much there. Pure Hangout, and then Pure Hangout on Instagram. I more observe on there. I don't post a lot, but I do like to see what everybody else is posting. So let me know you're out there so I can follow you and like all of your posts about movies.
All right. And Zach, where do you think they should take X-Men?
I think the main issue that people have had with Phase 4 and 5 is that unlike Phase 1 through 3, we had characters that we cared about in terms of like popularity, and then like the side characters that are wonky, like Ant-Man and Guardians and stuff like that, you can drop in there because we're following Cap and the 6 Avengers and things like that. So what I think they should do is, in order to centralize everything, is make the X-Men the central story while you're introducing the Shang-Chi's and the She-Hulks and stuff like that, because now we know where we're going. We're dealing with mutant stuff, but we're having all these other heroes coming in and out as well. That's what they did with the first 3 phases, and I think that's what's messed up with the 4th phase. The fact that there's no Avengers movies. So let's focus on mutants, have them be the main part of everything that is involved. Everything runs through them, but also keep introducing Moon Knight and all these other people as long, and telling their stories as well on the side, so that people can still get invested in them. So when you do have everything come together, you're like, okay, like I'm here for the X-Men, but all these side characters are cool too. I don't want to reboot.
Kind of like the X-Men TV show and the Spider-Man cartoon shows. Kind of like how they intertwined them. Yeah.
They intertwined them. Yeah. And everybody had to, like, there was an Iron Man show, there was a Hulk show. They're all connected. And then when that Spider-Man Infinite Crisis thing, they're all there. Right. So have the X-Men as the main timeline, keep all the characters that you introduced already, but they're not the main people. Yeah. Like Cap, Iron Man, Thor were the main people we followed, and then everybody else was kind of side characters but important. Let's do that. Have the X-Men the main people to carry everything through, and then you have the all characters. Obviously, Cap stays important, maybe Captain Marvel, Thor, but mutants are the main mutant saga. Let's just do that, and Fantastic Four, obviously.
Oh, and where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me. Okay, so into that, Zach Attack Reviews. I don't attack mutants on my channel, so Zach Attack Reviews, where I do movie reviews, trailer reactions. I have a weekly live show where I cover movie coverage every Tuesday, 7:30, and I also do throwback reviews on my channel. Be on the lookout. I think next week I'm going to be reviewing Return of the King Extended Edition after our first watch this year, and then I have a review for Borderlands coming out tomorrow.
Awesome. Dimension, where do you think they should go with X-Men?
If they rebooted, let the X-Men group already be established, and please let Cyclops be the leader of the group. I think they dropped the ball on that with Cyclops played by James Marsden. They really dropped the ball playing with Cyclops, especially in Last Stand. And as for where you can find me, I'm Dimension Scott, where I play video games, do unboxings, do haul videos, do ranking videos, and do some quick out of theory reaction videos. If that's all the type of stuff you love, like physical media, my channel is the right place for you. I also have Facebook and Instagram with the same name as well, Dimension Scott. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, panel, for joining me tonight and talking all these X-Men movies. Once again, audience, if you haven't already, go ahead and mega slash that like and subscribe. Of course, leave in the comment your ranking list, and yes, X-Force for sure. And have a good night, everybody.
Thank you for having us.